To pursue our passions is going to get us into all sorts of trouble, but for 15-year-old Takao, it seems to be a worthy pursuit. It isn't any different from his troubled home, with a mother who frequently just goes away for a few days to hunt down a younger man. This situation seems to be hopeless and changing at all, so him pursuing his dream of becoming a shoemaker is the only real path that could grow into anything to change the circumstances of his life. I feel myself strongly in this aspect of the character, because to me, school also was not a place where I felt I could manifest my potential into someone who really has something to offer, something of value coming from my heart. The challenges in it just felt like they lead nowhere in comparison to following my own curiosity. He decides it is worth more for him to skip school, at least on rainy days, and visit a favorite spot of his in a park. There, he comes upon a woman who captures his curiosity just like his passion does. And the fact that she seems to reveal barely anything of herself only sparks his desire to know more details about her. Why is she here in the morning? Why is she only bringing beer and chocolate? Why would she say these strange words upon leaving? Why would she keep meeting me on rainy days? The trouble of his life now doubled, and the emergence of the second unsolved mystery won't leave his mind, and serve as another escape from his family and boring school life. Even as they seem to be getting closer, with her prying into his early developments of the shoes he wants to design, her offering her help buying him a book, and even offer her foot for him to work on, a quite intimate act for a young boy like him, she barely opens up about anything. Why she's here, where she works, what's her age, it all remains shrouded in mystery. And then, as the temperature rises, the rainy days fade, they don't meet at their special spot in the mornings anymore. Takao spends time giving it his all, earning money during the summer break so he can buy more expensive leather to work on. And of course, having this mysterious girl continue to wander through his mind. School starts again, and soon after it does, he walks past her unexpectedly. This whole time, this girl had been a woman who is a teacher at his school. He wasn't in any of her classes, but one can guess that Takao's disinterest in school made him not even notice that this teacher is a famous one who was on leave over having been harassed by one of her students, claiming she had something to do with her boyfriend. It seems she was a beloved teacher among her other students, and that the girl who tried to blame her for something so weird as trying to get the attention of a male student is seen as pure slander in their eyes. This situation made her struggle greatly, so much she had trouble walking and she lost the ability to taste anything but alcohol and chocolate. On her phone with her ex, she also thinks to herself how she felt he didn't care about her feelings while she was going through her struggle, but now seems to show a lot of care. She tells him about someone she is meeting in the park, and lies that this is some old lady she has nice talks with. She feels like a liar, because she is. One lie is enough to give birth to more and more, until you even go so far as to try to worm yourself into the heart of an innocent 15-year-old student, concealing that you are a 27-year-old woman under your youthful appearance. Because why? Why is she doing this? Takao ends up confronting those who bullied her, feeling the need to fight and protect her, slapping the girl when she insults the teacher, and as a result gets 3 whole patches on his face. They end up meeting again, this time with no rain, and he ends up responding to her cryptic poem. They go to her place after the rain comes back and soaks them, and both internally felt like they are the happiest they've ever been. Takao's heart is overflowing, and he ends up confessing his feelings, that she pretends to not reciprocate. At least she has some sense as a 27-year-old. But of course, for the naive boy, this is a huge disappointment, and he gets up to leave, which she does not know how to react to because of her own feelings. He walks out, and she starts crying, so she runs after him and sees him standing there. He goes on to express his anger at her for having hidden so much of herself. Also how, even though she knew he was 15, would try to humor his fantasies, which really is a pathetic thing to do from her. His tears flow as it keeps pouring down, and she starts crying as well for, I guess, wanting to reveal more of herself. and the son comes in and she cries and hugs him. What? Why is this happening? Why is he put into the shoes of having to comfort her crappy behavior ever since day one with her cryptic poem and her general attention seeking? This is just absurd. I sort of would see how this is happening if she would simply own up to her behavior instead of pretending that he somehow is her lifesaver. Please, this makes no sense. Nothing about any of this had any sign of any life-changing emotions or experience happening. Nothing essential was revealed about either character, about their real internal struggles and emotions. I genuinely just don't see how this is supposed to be moving beyond the fact that the extremely beautiful animation and music are both trying their hardest to force the story to keep up with their emotional intensity. But the story can't reach there. What else do we know? Okay, his passion for shoes came from seeing the high heels that his mom got. What about her? She is so pretty she makes her students jealous. The only thing I can say about this story is that the type of rule-breaking Takao does through skipping school and pursuing his passion is something meaningful to convey. Sometimes you've got to break the rules, and really, it has to happen for the good of your own soul and having a fulfilling life in the long run, which really is the best for yourself and in turn for the world. But to mirror that with her rule breaking, leading on a 15-year-old as a 27-year-old, acting helpless and not owning up to her gross behavior and just praising him somehow as her savior to top her pile of crap off? This is just ridiculous. The whole thing portrays her as some beloved teacher whose only crime was being too pretty. Come on. Why is she even beloved? It just shows that she's beloved, but it doesn't at all go into why she would be. Considering how she deals with male students, one can only assume that the girl who blamed her was actually right. In a way, as a rule breaker himself, it makes sense for Takao to feel his soul reflected in such an unhealthy person. But this sadly just reflects the fact that he probably has a deeply injured soul from having grown up with an irresponsible mother, which he now has to heal by pursuing his passion. Yukari shows no sign of actually having the best for Takao in mind. Her intentions are completely concealed, and nothing of her true self is revealed at all, no matter how barefoot she got. Alright, with this out of the way, let's talk about the aesthetics. They look incredible. Everything of value is contained in them about this movie. I praise the animators 100-fold for doing such painstaking and detailed work. If I'd watched this movie without caring about the characters, or rather Yukari's motivations in specific, this would have been worth it for the animation and sound design alone. But you can't solve the emotional reality of storytelling with impressive visuals. These feelings don't reflect much reality, and at points I got actually uncomfortable with how this movie tries to force me to feel things, like someone is trying to worm themselves into my heart. No thank you. I look for real emotions, real hope and despair expressed in stories, not this. This is trying too hard to say something the author clearly had never even experienced in any sort of way at all, and tries to sell this swindle under incredible art direction. You can't express love in art if you've never opened your heart to someone. You can only long for it. And when I watched this movie for the first time long ago, I wasn't this critical. I was longing with it. I've tried to convey my thoughts and feelings about this into a script in a faster way than usual, and honestly, it feels possible to do so exactly because this story has a lacking core. I might have jackhammered my way into it, but sometimes you just have to break the facade, and this movie's facade is one that I think won't hold up in the long run to cover its lacking story. I'll have to see if my feelings change that much while I edit this video, but if you're hearing this, they likely haven't. In my memory, from having watched this years ago, I genuinely love this movie. Its visuals are something to be always appreciated. And even watching this now in the early days of the weather getting warmer is a really nice experience. But I can't hold back that the story not only falls flat, but has barely anything that could fall in the first place. The meaning of love is something I do not recognize as being conveyed in this story, where a 15-year-old is the one forced to be the mature one in comparison to a 27-year-old who should not try to make her way into his heart like this in the first place. And the way the story is presented almost feels like a similarly manipulative act is imposed on the viewer. though, of course, not bordering legality. I'll have to see if any of Shinkai's work holds up to convey the real meaning of love and its sacrifices in any of his other movies. And I'm gonna try to be cautiously optimistic. I will have to see when these videos release. I'm going to definitely look at Weathering with You, since that stands out as my favorite in my memory. I really had to dissect this to the degree that I did, and while it might seem like it ruins the enjoyment of the movie, my standards for real emotions being expressed in stories are really guiding my thought process on these scripts, and they will continue to do so as I take more under their analysis. If I had one final thing to say about the story that might not make that much sense, is that the real emotions are still completely concealed, and the exploration to the darkness of them that are deep down has yet to begin, as they loom over, like a cloud that has yet to truly release its tension. Even though it has rained quite a lot already.